Well. Welcome to a long overdue episode of Season of the Fan, the Philadelphia Eagles 2024-25 season. And I believe the last vid I made for this series quite a while ago was I talked about trust. Now, since that last video, all the Eagles have done is win, and I feel kind of bad making this in a way. I'm like, should I make a vid? They've done nothing but win. Not to say I'm a superstitious person, but what's it? Andy Reid always would say, I take full responsibility. If the Eagles lose this game, I take full responsibility. I take full responsibility. But shout out to Big Red. Man, oh man, have we had some interesting moments, right? Some incredible games, some big wins. You win in Baltimore, you win in LA. The Cincinnati win in Cincinnati. There was a lot of really good wins for this team. And look, last week, close game against the Panthers, probably a lot closer than it had to be. But you always take the win. See, and this is the thing, like, we all live in a video game world. We all, there's a great documentary on Amazon right now about Madden. And I've played Madden for many years. I played it, the first time I played it was on the computer. Way back in the day, back in the late 90s. And different game consoles and all. I suck against other people, but, usually against the system, I'm okay. The Eagles have done a lot of winning in the Madden world. I used to actually do some vids here on YouTube of me playing the game. Sometimes not very well. It's hard to commentate and play. It's like, because the concentration. But those are pretty fun. I kind of miss doing that, but maybe we'll get back to it someday. But people look. I get it. We as a fan base, we want to see great play week after week, right? We want to see the Eagles blow out teams, and particularly teams that they should. I mean, they should win by double digits against teams like the Panthers, against teams like the Jaguars. You know, but again, we've seen them have some pretty good wins, pretty decent lopsided wins. The Giants game, the Dallas game. Those come to mind. Even some of those games that got close at the end because the team scored like a garbage late fourth quarter touchdown, like the Rams game, even Baltimore. I mean, the Eagles dominated for a good chunk of those games. Cincinnati. Yeah, they got off the slow starts. The Eagles have done nothing but get off the slow starts all year. First quarter, they've scored a grand total of 17 points? That's nuts, but the old adage, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And this team has finished pretty good in a lot of these games. And I know this week was a nail-biter. I mean, if Leggett catches that ball at the end, we may have lost that game. But you can't... Sometimes there just isn't style points. I mean, you can ask the Kansas City Chiefs. They won the last two Super Bowls. And they have been the most tight wire walking team in the league. They win every week by like less than a touchdown or less. And it's the Chiefs. This is a team that's a dynasty. And every week they probably should lose games and they find a way to win. Block a field goal, make a field goal when they hit the upright and it goes in. Whatever the situation is, they find ways to win, and it probably drives their fans nuts. Now their fans are pretty spoiled. They've won a lot. They've won 3 Super Bowls, including one against us, and that was a close game. Came down to a penalty at the end with Pointy McPoint saying, "Oh, there's a penalty." But no, but you take the win. You always take the win. Now in Dramadelphia here. We can never have a season without drama. That just goes with the territory. So last season, of course, the season went off the rails. After that 49er game, we all know it was absolutely terrible. The rest of that season, this season, around the same time, last season they were 10-1. This year they're I guess at the time, I guess around the same time, so they were about 10-2, 11-2, what have you. And again, here comes here comes the annual Jalen Hurts AJ Brown spat, and I guess we're gonna have to call that what it is, because it happened last year and it happened this year. I get it. Listen, the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles is always going to be the most scrutinized position in the city. It's just that's where all the attention's always going to go, and maybe rightfully so. Um, is Jalen Hurts a great passer of the football? Does he miss things on the field? Are there throws to be made that he doesn't make? Yeah. But I'll tell you what else he is. He's a winner. They've won a lot of games with Jalen Hurts. I mean, they went to a Super Bowl with him. They almost won a Super Bowl with him. I don't know. I mean, he's won a lot. I mean, he's won more at this point in his career than Donovan McNabb did, and McNabb was very scrutinized. And I say that because Jalen's gotten to a Super Bowl quicker than Donovan did. Donovan, it took some years. Yes, they went to the NFC title game, 3 years in a row before they got to that Super Bowl. And Donovan had a lot of success, as the Eagles quarterback. He was the winningest quarterback in franchise history. Set a lot of records. And I was a Donovan fan, in those years. I got the shortcomings, the worm balls, couldn't quite get over the hump. I get all that. But, with Jalen, I get that too. I mean, I get frustrated, when they're not scoring in the first quarter and, it's 2nd and 2 and Saquon Barkley just went 8 yards, and on the next play, we're going to have a drop back play for Jalen and he gets sacked. I mean, I get it. I get frustrated too. But at the same time, I believe we can win with Jalen Hurts. I believe that this team can win a Super Bowl with him. We almost did. I mean, and if he didn't get hurt that season, he may have been the league MVP. Are there things he needs to get better at? Absolutely. Are there things that, we wish he would be better at? Yeah, I've said this, the last few years. I said he needs to scan the field better. He needs to. Here's the thing that I think happened. So a couple years ago, back in 22, when they went to the Super Bowl, Jalen was balling out, right? I mean, he was making throws. He seemed very comfortable in the offense. He had a career year, passing the ball. But he was, and I think part of it was because he was just going free. He was just going free, right? Now, last season happened, right? Now, last season as a whole, the team just collapsed, right, after that Niner game. But one of the big knocks on Jalen last season was the turnovers, the interceptions, the fumbles, right? Going into this season, early in the season, the team's 2-2, the team's 3-2, but still, he turns the ball over way too much. I just think that it's almost like it's in his head so much not to turn the ball over that some of even the simple throws that are there, I don't want, there's this thing in sports called the yips. I'm not saying he has the yips, but it's like he wants that perfect play where the receiver's going to be wide open, and that's not always the case, right? Obviously, the old saying, you got to throw your receivers open if you're a quarterback, right? And he just doesn't seem like he wants to do that. And is it a correctable issue? I believe so. Will he correct it this season? That has to be seen. That has to be seen. But I just think it was one of those things. It's like, the old saying, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like early in the season, everyone was on Jalen because he's too many turnovers. And now it's, well, he's not passing enough. I don't know what he has to do aside from winning a Super Bowl that's going to, stop this. I get the frustration. I get the frustration from the fans. I get the frustration from his teammates, from A.J. Brown, from Devontae Smith. They want the football. Even if they're not wide open, they're athletic enough that they can still make the play when the ball's in the air. We've seen it many a time, right? We saw it in 22. We saw it last season. We saw it early this season, right? These guys are superior athletes, and we're lucky to have the receivers we do. But you still have to get the most of their talents, and I do believe it's going to come. I just think for whatever reason, Jalen just has it in his head right now. He doesn't want to turn the ball over. And now, I applaud him for that, but at the same time, you can't be afraid to make mistakes. Because if you try to make that throw and the receiver isn't wide open and you let your receiver go out, sometimes you got to trust. There's that word again, trust. Sometimes you got to trust your teammates. You got to trust those other players that they're going to go out and make those plays, right? They doesn't have to be the perfect pass. You just have to put it up there. Let your guys go out and make that play for you. And AJ and Devontae are very capable of doing it. Jalen just got to get back to trusting that, right? Now, the play calling has to be there, too. The Eagles have had a heck of a year running the ball. I mean, Saquon Barkley, the Giants owner is losing more and more sleep. They're going to start calling him Vampire pretty soon. That's just, it's unbelievable what Saquon's done. He may very well get the single-season rushing record this season. Whether he does it in week 16 or 17, he might get it, more than likely. He already has the single-season rushing record in team history, passing Shady McCoy in the win against Carolina, and he's been a special back. And listen, I don't want to go too much on a tangent on this, but the Niner fans, were having a lot of fun with us last season, weren't they? After that game. And through the rest of the season, it's like they fixated on us. Right? I tried to warn them. I really did. I did all I could. Bay Area, Rez, didn't I? I tried. I said, this isn't the fan base you want to poke. Don't do it. No, you don't want this. This isn't what you want. We aren't Rams fans. This isn't the 12s now. This is a whole different story. And then what happened, right? The overtime Super Bowl, and the Eagle fans were relentless with them. Oh, my God, they were relentless with them. Or the Iron fans. It was something. And now this, and I cautioned them. I said, look, the year after you lose a Super Bowl, it's tough. Unless you're a Patriots, a Chiefs, it's tough. If you're not a dynasty team, when your team loses a Super Bowl that next season, you can ask us about that last season, right? It's a difficult, things happen. And the Niners are finding that out this season, right? Injuries, inconsistencies. It is what it is. I'm not trying to poke at the faithful. I'm just saying, MightyFan tried to tell you, right? Sometimes maybe you need to listen to MightyFan. That's all I'm saying. I've watched this game a long time. I know. I might not be a coach. I might not be a player. I did score a touchdown in flag football in college. That's as far as I went. But I've watched this game a long time. I know. There's gray here, okay? And here. So I have watched this game a very long time, and I can see tendencies. And I know that next season's tough. But I say that to say this. The 49ers, I will give them all sorts of credit for this. All sorts of credit for this. So a few years ago, what did they do? They made a trade for Christian McCaffrey. And it seemed to really boost them. Like put them that one piece that they really wanted to get to put them over the top, right? And they've had a lot of success since having him on their team. So the Eagles saw this. Now look, we lost to them last season, right? We got spanked around. That was the beginning of the end for us, right? And that was the beginning of the beginning for them to go to the on their way to winning the NFC title. Before pointing in the Super Bowl. See, it's not fun playing him in the Super Bowl, is it? Now, they all had fun with us in Super Bowl the year before in Super Bowl 57. You all had fun with that one, and 58 happened. It's not fun playing that team. in the Super Bowl. It just isn't, unless you're Tom Brady. But anyhow, so but okay, they had success. The Eagles lost to them. So Howie, being Howie, kind of he kind of stores some things away right in the back there. Says, all right, I see what's going on here. I see what we need. So all due respect to Mr. Swift last season, who had a good year, and Miles Sanders before that, right? The Eagles have always had a pretty good running game, but Saquon's a game changer. And when he became available, because the Giants are stupid, thank you, the Giants. It's just the gift that keeps on giving, right? So when he became available, and they chose to pay Danny Dunn, what's he doing there now? Oh, that's right, he's on Jake's Vikings now, isn't he? He's not even a Giant anymore. But so Saquon becomes available, and Howie, being Howie, said, the 49ers are winning a lot of games. They're running the ball. Yeah, they have Purdy. Yeah, they have Debo. Yeah, they have Ayuk. They have Kittle. But they got that running back, and that's the engine. We need that. So they went out and did what the Eagles usually don't do and paid a running back. And it's been a match made in heaven so far, obviously. Look, I mean, there's still, Tom, I'm not saying that, this is like, this is like the greatest move ever, right? This certainly looks like one of them, right? But sometimes you learn from things that go wrong. And that game last season at the Link, when the Niners were having fun and Debo was pounding his chest, all right, and the Niners were whooping it up and their fans were having fun at us, that kind of put a little seed in the back of Howie's brain there about, we might need a better running back. So they go out and they get Saquon. And I will give the Niners a lot of credit for that, because they were like one of the first teams to put more value on the running back position. And you see teams that win, look, it might not even be the greatest back in the league, but you see how the Chiefs are winning, right? Yeah, they have Mahomes, and he's going to be one of the all-timers, right? Yeah, they have Kelsey. But they also have a strong running game with Pacheco or whoever's back there, right? They run the ball, and they have a lot of success doing that. Other teams have done it. Now, I know in football, like any sports, it's a cyclical thing. Things happen in cycles, right? It's a running league. It's a passing league. It's a running league. It's a passing league. When I was younger, when I didn't have the grays, all right, it was a running league. You had guys like Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and Thurman Thomas, and you can go and name the gamut of these running backs, right? And these teams that were having success with them, right? Yeah, you had really good quarterback play back then too. You had some wide receivers, Jerry Rice and the like. You had the quarterback club back then, but it was a running league first. Teams ran the ball to set up the passing game, and then the passing game became more of the thing. And it was like a pass first league. But over the last few years, now you're seeing it's starting to reverse again. It's starting to become that more of a running back, running first kind of league, right? The teams that are having success, they're running the ball, right? And they have mobile quarterbacks that run the ball. It's not just the running back, right? The quarterbacks are the running backs, right? So, like I said, things come in cycles. And now it's starting to turn again to become more of a running league. And you see the teams that are having success, they're running the ball. Look at the teams that are throwing the ball, right? The top team passing-wise in the league so far this season are the Bengals. What's their record? They might not make the playoffs. We beat them, okay, in their building, okay? Now, that might be an anomaly type of thing. The Bengals have had some injuries. They've had some other issues. It's not because of Joe Burrow they're losing games. Their defense is not the greatest, although the one of their players is leading the league in sacks. But like I said, it's one of those anomaly type of deals. But teams are starting to run the ball more. And the Eagles have had a lot of success, 11-2, and for really for two reasons. The first is obviously 2-6. You get Saquon behind this offensive line. He never had an offensive line like this in New York. Never. Right? So he's behind this great offensive line, and look at what he's able to do, right? So Saquon's a big reason for that. The offensive line, speaking of the Eagles' offensive line, during their bye week, we've all heard it, right? They went to Coach Sirianni and said, we want to run the ball more. We're not running the ball enough. Let us do what our strength is and run block. This is a great run blocking offensive line. It's always been. But now you see it paired with a running back like Saquon, and now you're seeing exactly what can be done. So they looked at, and again, I know I said many times already this season about my thoughts about Nick Sirianni and how I would have let him go after last season. But I did also say when it I will I will I will tell you when someone's wrong when they're wrong, but I will give them credit when credit's due. And I will give Nick Sirianni credit. He changed. He was able to he was able to um, change the offensive plans from being a pass first offense to a run first offense, right? So he made an adjustment, at the behest of some of his players and some of those leaders like the offensive line. And again, that's not a shot on Jalen. That's just you taking what should be a strength on this team with the offensive line and working with that. Now the running game should set up the passing game, and again, that's where it's going to come down to the coaching staff and Jalen to make sure that happens. Will it happen? Hey, we're going to have to wait and see. I can't tell you the answer to that. We're going to have to see from this Sunday on against Pittsburgh. But again, so one of the big reasons why this team has had the success they've had so far this season is the running game. But also, you got to give Jalen credit too, not turning the ball over. Another big reason why is the defense. And this is one of the biggest changes from last season. Last season, you remember, we remember from that Niner game on. Now, last season to this season, and I understand what happened with all the drama this week with Jalen and AJ and this and that, right? And Brandon Graham throwing oily rags onto the fire on Monday night during the Players' Lounge. But really, you could see a difference. Like last season, even though they were 10-1, you just saw that there's issues. It was 10-1. It didn't feel like 10-1. Going into this game against Carolina last week, they were 10-2, and it felt like 10-2. Like you can really feel the difference. One of the big reasons for that, obviously, like I said, was Saquon, the running game, but also the defense. What a night and day difference it is a year from last season at this time. Last season, at this time, the defense was absolutely terrible. Not only were they not making plays, but their coaching staff seemed inept. They had the pencil man there, right? They got rid of the Desai. It was awful. Watching that defense, the Niners running up and down the field, not just the Niners, the Cardinals running up and down the field on that defense. You got to be kidding me. Locke had a game-winning drive in Seattle against them. Slim and I were at the game at the Meadowlands, and I've told him this like 100 times in the last few weeks. I said, boy, can you imagine? We were sitting there in the Meadowlands, freezing our asses off, just absolutely miserable the last week of the regular season last year. We saw Saquon's last touchdown as a Giant last season in person. We're sitting there watching this defense just get picked apart by the Giants. It was a terrible game. And here we are a year later, and Saquon's going for 255 as an Eagle against the Rams in L.A. And Saquon's doing all these things as the backwards hurdle against the Jaguars, all these different plays, how great this team looks. But it's not just Saquon in the offense. It's look at the difference the defense is. Look what they're doing. You know why? And I said this to start the season. They have an adult in the room. And Vic Fangio. They have an adult in the room. A guy that's been there around the block many times. He's seen all these offenses. He knows how to make adjustments. And the other thing that he knows what to do is to put value on the linebacker position. This is something I've said for years that was missing on this defense. And look, we won a Super Bowl, right? We got to another Super Bowl. But this team hasn't had great linebacker play. I mean, you have to go back how many years? Now we finally have it. With Nakobe Dean, and what a difference he's made, right? Great credit to him. Because it looked like he was going to be a bust for a bit there, right, as a draft pick. But he's really found himself. And you also get Zach Bond, who was kind of an unknown, but Vic saw something in him. Now I do believe they brought Zach here to be more of an edge rusher, and it just became he could play linebacker too, but he was really more of an edge rusher. So they moved him to linebacker. Again, Vic saw that, and the coaching staff saw that in him, that he can be a great linebacker in this league. And Vic knows about linebacker play. All those teams he's been on, he's always developed linebackers as a defensive coordinator. And that's what he's doing here, right? With Dean, you see the difference Dean's making, and Bond. Now, it's up to Howie to keep Bond here, and I hope he does. I really do, because I'd love to see Bond and Dean here as the linebacking core for the next how many years. Absolutely fantastic play. I'm seeing this team make tackles. Tackles, these simple things that last season we couldn't see. How depressing was that? We all remember the Tampa Bay playoff loss. They look like Keystone Cops out there running into each other as Buccaneer receivers are running wide open and free and laughing as they go into the end zone. How embarrassing was that? And that game was the cherry on top of the sundae. Because really from that Niner game on, that's all we saw. Was just ineptness on the defense. Not tackling, not having any kind of drive. And I think that what they also were able to do was infuse some youth into this defense. We talked about Nakobe Dean. Jalen Carter, who's an absolute game wrecker, whose 98 is up to his neck. And at some point, sometime, they're going to call a hold against. He's going to get a holding call against. Because when the numbers are up here, you're probably being held. Okay? But you know what? He's not using it as an excuse. He's going out there and balling every week. I talked about Dean Smith is coming on. He's made some plays over the last few weeks, and I feel horrible that BG is out, that he got hurt season-ending triceps tear against the Rams. You talk about Mr. Eagle. I mean, that's BG. So, get well soon, BG. But, I mean, you're seeing the young guys, and obviously we talk about those guys. You can't talk about the youth without talking about the secondary. Quinion Mitchell, Q Island. I'll tell you what. I can't tell you that I watched a lot of Toledo games over the years. All right, I probably haven't watched any, but so when they drafted Quinion Mitchell, I was happy because I wanted them to get a cornerback or a safety. I thought we need secondary help on this team, right? Because the guys they got, Slay, long in the tooth, right? They needed youth in the secondary, right? When you go out and you get Q. And again, I can't tell you I watched a lot of game film of him in Toledo, right? But the one thing that I heard that gave me a lot of hope for him was that Nick Saban really wanted him at Alabama. And he wanted Quinion Mitchell to transfer from Toledo to Alabama. And Quinion wouldn't do it because he made a promise or whatever to the coach. He wanted to stay there. He wanted to stay with Toledo. And you could have gone to Alabama. You could have had more TV time. You could have been in the national spotlight, obviously more in Alabama than you're ever going to be in Toledo. But it says something about his character because he stayed where he stayed. But the bigger thing for me was that Nick Saban wanted him desperately. Nick Saban, he knows talent. Nick Saban, obviously, when you talk about all the years he had over his collegiate years, right, winning national championships, being one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football, basically the Belichick of college football, right? When Nick Saban wants you that much, you got to be pretty good. And that's the one thing that always stood out to me when I heard that. That kind of got my antenna up a little bit more about Quinion Mitchell. So, all right, I'm glad the Eagles went secondary there in their number one pick. And I think this is a good pick just for that reason alone. Because Saban really wanted him. And if Saban was trying like anything to get him, this guy's got to have something. He's got to have something. Boy, does he. Great pick. The other one that I was so happy when they got him was a guy who I've now nicknamed the Water Boy. And the Water that's my nickname for Coop, is the Water Boy. Because it's not Water Boy, because in Philly we don't say water, we say water. So it's the Water Boy, Wooderboy. That's Cooper DeJean, and I nicknamed him that after that stick he made on King Henry in Baltimore. Great tackle, and that tackle alone. We haven't seen a tackle like that in a number of years. That was fantastic. And I know he got beat on some plays this past week. It was his rookie moment. He got beat by a veteran receiver in Adam Thielen. But for the most part, he's been great. And ever since he's come in to be a starter on this team to couple with Quinion in the secondary, their secondary has looked really good. I mean, leaps and bounds better than the last season. Even the last few seasons. Even better than the secondary when they went to the Super Bowl, those years ago. This has been a very, very exciting thing for us because we've waited for this for so long. We've wanted this for so long. And I was excited when they got Cooper because I knew he was a good player. Those players that come out of Iowa, they usually pan out, particularly in the tight end position, but in other positions too. And the way he plays just fits Philly. Like, if you were to pick a player and say, this guy is going to come to this city and play on the Eagles, it's Cooper. It just is. I was happy when they drafted him, and I was happy when they drafted Trott's son too, Trotter Jr. Even though he's more of a special teams player now, but you got to start somewhere, right? I think Howie just had a masterclass in the draft. I mean, you get two starters, one of them who could be an All-Pro in Quinion Mitchell, the other who's a really good up-and-comer. If anything else, who's a solid pro, who's a solid starter in Cooper DeJean, the Water Boy. I think that you got to tip the hat. And I know that this was one of those things that we always said, boy, if Howie could just be better at drafting at certain positions, right? Well, this offseason he did. I mean, you talk about having one hell of an offseason. Those guys, Barkley, Bond, Becton, coming in from the Jets, because anyone who comes here is going to get coached up, for that offensive line and Stoutland University. And it's amazing to me to say, and I don't mean this as any disrespect to Kelsey, but you talk about one of the all-time centers in the history of the Eagles who retires, the guy who takes over, Juergens. It's like they I don't want to say they don't miss a beat, but it's like you don't hear about the center making mistakes. Now I know Kelsey had a hand in that because he was one of the ones that said, yeah, draft this guy. He's a lot like me. That's Kelsey talking, And good job, man. Good job on them to do it. They certainly have hit in the last how many years drafts. And they've done a much better job than what was happening here in those years where we should have drafted Jefferson, should have drafted Metcalf. And instead of saying that we should have, now we're saying, boy, we're glad we got this guy. We're glad we got that guy, right? How quickly things turn. Again, that trust word. So great job by Howie. Listen, I know there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered. I don't like this drama. This is just, it happens every year. Things are going to happen, right? You see it with other teams too. Deebo Samuel's on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now, putting, I got to get the ball, right? Receivers always want the ball, right? That's just what it is. That comes with that position, right? So AJ wanting the ball, Devontae wanting the ball, yeah, absolutely, it makes sense. But, and I know we all have, the PSD from the season ago with the Jalen and AJ stuff, and then the season just fell apart. But there was a lot more reason the season fell apart last season than Jalen and AJ having a bit of a spat. Friends are always going to do that, even best friends. That's what happens, right? You're going to argue, you're going to have, times of disagreement. Maybe words are said, things you don't mean come out. Maybe things you do mean do, but it shouldn't derail. It just, that alone's not going to derail a season. What's going to derail a season is bad play and bad coaching, and that's what we saw last season. And when that started happening, it just fell apart quick. I can't see that happening this season. I think it's a different year. I think there's disappointment after the Carolina game, but I think with the coaching staff that they have, with the assistant coaches they have that are better assistant coaches than what they had a year ago, I think that's going to keep this thing together. Plus, they have more talent, and the youth I think is going to help to keep this thing together, not let it get away. I think Saquon has to do with that too. I think you have more. There's more of a chance of not letting this thing go off like a bomb, like it did last season, because you just have more strength, I believe, this season. And I think part of it is because of what happened last season. You have a lot of players that remember that. And it's like, are we going to really allow this to happen again? I mean, we're 11-2. We got 4 weeks to go until the playoffs. We have a chance still to get the number 1 seed. We'll see how that works out. But if anything else, this team has a real chance to do something special this season and into the postseason. And I get the trepidation. Jalen's not passing, the blah, blah, blah. I get that, right? But I still think this team has a great chance to do something special this season. And they just said they got to just continually come together. And they got to find a way. And yeah, Jalen has to, pass the ball a little better, has to take more chances. And I would hope he does. Again, can I tell you with a full certainty he will? No, but we're going to have to see how things go this week against Pittsburgh, a tough opponent, one of the better teams in the league. And I will say this about the Panther game. That was the game left on the schedule that I was the most afraid of, because it was coming off the Baltimore game, and in between it was in the middle game between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You talk about that trap, It was that trap game. You see a lot of teams lose that game, and the Eagles found a way to win. Now, yeah, the Panthers kind of found a way to lose too. Maybe it went a little hand in hand, but the Eagles, at the end of the day, won the game. Was it a lot closer than it had to be? Yeah, you're going to get that. Again, the Chiefs, they almost lost to the Panthers some weeks ago. The Chiefs almost lose to everybody. It's like but they find ways to win. It's crazy with that team. And the Eagles have done it too, right? Detroit's done it. In their long winning streak, there's been times they probably should have lost. I mean, they got away with a 5-interception game by Jared Goff and still won a road game in Houston. Even last week, I mean, against the Packers, they're going for it. Goff's falling down, and he's able to hand the ball off, and they get the first down, and then they get the game-winning field goal, a close game. Now, against a good team and the Packers and a divisional opponent. But again, all you got to do is you got to just find ways to win. That's all it is. And you know what? Style points are for Madden. You want to win a game by 30 or 40, just play Madden, because in the NFL, you're not always going to win games, even against teams that you should blow away. It's not always going to happen. It just isn't. That's not how things work. We would love it to. I would love to have a game where I could just sit back and put the feet up in the fourth quarter and hands behind the head. Yeah. We're up by 20. We're good. Don't have to worry, I can't see that being this week. The Steelers are a pretty damn good team, and they got a lot of pride on that team. So an interesting matchup this week. You have the Battle of PA. Both these teams have a pretty strong history. They both came in the league in 1933. Both have had a lot of success. Both known more for defense over the years than offense, even though they both boasted some pretty good offensive players over the years. The Steelers last won in Philly. It's funny, with these two teams. Obviously, they don't play a lot. They play, once every 4 years or so. The Eagles usually don't win in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers usually don't win in Philly. The Steelers last won in Philly back in the 60s, before the Steel Curtain days. I mean, that's going back. But every year is a different year. Obviously, both teams have played really well. They both are almost mirrors of each other in some ways. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. The Steelers have a really good pass rush, and they get a lot of turnovers. Now, here's the thing: the Steelers cause a lot of turnovers. The Eagles, really since week 4 or 5, don't turn the ball over very often. So now you're going up against, okay, who's going to win that battle? I think the absence of Pickens, if he doesn't play, and even if he does with a hamstring, he's not going to be 100%. I think that's going to be pretty big for Pittsburgh. The Eagles will not have Dallas Goedert, as we know, but besides that, they're pretty much healthy. They have all their receivers, Jalen, Saquon, still trying to get that single-season rushing record. Offensive line, I mean, they're healthy. They're as healthy as you're going to be this time of year. I know they have guys playing banged up. Every team does. It just goes with the game. It's a tough spot because the Eagles have won a lot of games in a row, and they are coming off of a week of drama, soap opera type drama. And, that does play into the minds of players, but I think you have players that want to try to prove themselves also this week. And I think that, that's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to break you up or it's going to make you stronger. And last season it broke them up. And I would hope that this season it makes them stronger as a team, as a collective unit. It's a tough spot, it is. But I think the Eagles are going to find another way to win the game. The Eagles have also never beaten Russell Wilson, going back to the Seattle days. So we're overdue to beat him in a game. And the fact that Pittsburgh usually doesn't win in Philly. Now you go back again to the 60s. The last time they did. I like the Eagles in this spot. I would it shock me if we lose the game? No. It really wouldn't. And it would suck because Detroit has a tough game too. I'm glad Buffalo lost because now I don't think they're going to lose 2 in a row. I think they're going to find a way to beat the Lions in Detroit this week because they really need the game. I mean, if they have any chance of catching Kansas City, they can't lose. Again, they have to win out. And that's a very good team too. And I know Detroit's real good, particularly at home. But I don't know. I think Buffalo gets them. And we got a tough one against Pittsburgh. But it's one of those things, if they lose and we win, now we're even, but they'll still have the tiebreaker because they have one less conference loss than the Eagles do. If Saquon just could have caught that ball against Atlanta, we would have won that game too, but it is what it is. The Eagles, no, they're still fighting for the 1 seed. So it is going to be a tough game, and Jalen's going to have to make good decisions. He's got, again, there's that word again, trust. He's got to trust his receivers to make plays. He has to. I mean, Steelers aren't a huge scoring team, and they're not like, when the Eagles beat the Rams, that was a scoring team, right? When they beat the Bengals, when they beat, even, Baltimore. I mean, those are teams that can score. Those are teams that put up numbers. Pittsburgh really isn't that. Again, like I said, these teams kind of mirror each other. So the Steelers are not a huge scoring team, but they are one of the upper echelons in the league, and you gotta give them credit. Look, they've done it for many years. I mean, this is what they are. I mean, they win a lot of games, and they're a tough team to beat, and particularly when they're playing as well as they're playing right now, it's gonna be a tough game. But again, I think the Eagles will find a way. I think they are going to put it in the air a little more. Not saying that they're going to go completely with the air attack, and I wouldn't, to be honest. Not this week. I think you can win the game by lengthening the game offensively, by having long. Now you have to score. That's the operative word there at the end of the drives. But I think that you got to put together long scoring drives against Pittsburgh. Keep Russ off the field as much as you can. Also, based off how the Eagles have played, I like the Eagles in the turnover battle. I think the Eagles' defense might be able to cause a few turnovers. Where Pittsburgh, as good as they are at causing turnovers, I don't think that they'll have that type of opportunity against the Eagles' offense. Whereas I think the Eagles could have more opportunity against the Steelers' offense. But we'll see. Obviously, again, I'm not a coach or anything. I'm just making opinions here on YouTube, so. Is what it is. So we'll see. It is going to be an interesting game. It's a tough game. A lot of drama this week. Again, I called it Dramadelphia. It was a Dramadelphia week. I mean, that's what it was. I'd like to get all that past I'd like to just talk, hear football talk on sports radio. And all this friend, they're not friends anymore. They're friends, and it drives me nuts after a while. It's like, I get it. It's a hot button topic. There's a lot of hot takes that come with it, and sports talk radio, that's what you're going to get. But after a while, it's like, can we just get to the damn game? I want Sunday to come. I want Sunday to get here. I want to get the football. I want to enough of the soap opera. I want to get to the game and hear about the X's and O's of the game instead of, well, they're not friends anymore. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. So, but we'll see. Like I said, I believe my birds. I believe we're gonna get this dub on Sunday and still have a chance at that 1 seed. It's still going to be tough. It's going to be tough to wrestle it away from Detroit, maybe even to wrestle it away from the Vikings. Now, talk about another team that won't lose. I mean, but that's why. Look, every week is important, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing, as long as you win. At the end of the day, it's just about winning, collecting those W's, right? Because you have to, particularly the way this season has gone, because you have Detroit and Minnesota, and one of those teams is going to win the division and the other team is not. I get that, right? You're not playing two teams from two different divisions to have a chance of having this record, but still, I mean, a loss, yeah, and if they win again, and look, Minnesota, not for nothing, they're playing the Bears. We can't. I mean, the Bears have been one of the most unhelpful teams for us all year. Every game where we're like, maybe the Bears can. No. The Hail Mary in Washington, the blocked field goal against the Packers. That dumb coach not getting fired a week earlier and then not calling a timeout in Detroit on Thanksgiving. Boy, that ruined Thanksgiving. That one, that was a. Thank you, Bears. But we cannot count on the Bears helping us at all. So the Vikings are going to win this. Jake, yeah, your team's going to get another W this week. The Bears they're bad. Division rival, whatever, they're bad. You'll win. Don't worry. You might have the game where you can go like this in the fourth quarter while I'm biting my nails off against Pittsburgh. But yeah, we got a tough one this week. But so does Detroit, right? I think Buffalo's going to get them. I do. I like that Buffalo lost last week against the Rams. That's good. Now they're angry. So this is a good spot. Detroit, you're in trouble this week. This is not the week that you're. The win streak comes to an end, Detroit. I'm calling it right now. I'm not a betting man. I will not bet on these games, but I think Buffalo's getting this one, and I think we eke out a game against Pittsburgh, so we'll be even in the loss column with Detroit after this week. Now it just comes down to the last 3 weeks. Even if Detroit slips up one more time, we might have to rely on our friends in San Francisco to help us a little bit. Of course, they don't want to help us. No, they're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I tried to. Detroit. I will say this. I know I've almost gone 50 minutes here, but I haven't done this series in quite a while, so I'm making up for lost time. It wouldn't be me if it wasn't a long-winded video, right? So, Detroit fans, I'm gonna, I know these things, okay? You want to take lessons learned from these other fan bases. So if the Eagles get the number 1 seed in the road to the NFC goes through Philly, and Detroit, I'm saying it right now to the Detroit fans, this isn't the fight you want. Don't do it, because Eagle fans are relentless. It doesn't stop with us. It might stop with other fan bases. It doesn't stop here. We remember everything. And we keep the receipts. Believe me, we keep them. You just have to ask the Giant fans, the Viking fans, the Niner fans. They all wanted to throw their stuff on the Rocky statue. and they thought they were safe because they put it on social media. Like, Philly fans don't look at social media. No, why would we do that? We never would do that. Oh, you think you're safe. You're not safe. And the Niner fans were having so much fun with us last season. Oh my God! It was like they would win, we would lose, and they would be rubbing it into. Oh my God! Oh, they were having fun. They were enjoying life. And then Kansas City happened. Remember, they were their friends just the year before, but then that Super Bowl happened, and then they weren't friendly with them anymore for some reason. I don't know what happened. I thought they were buddy-buddy with Mahomes and Reed. They were their friends, and Kelsey, and yeah. What happened there? and the Eagle fan. Now, I wasn't, look, you can ask Rez, right? You can ask Bay Area. You can even ask my friend Hazor from the FHS community, right? I didn't rub it into them, right? But a lot of most Eagle fans were not as cordial after the Niners lost the Super Bowl last year. So if you start something with this fan base is usually going to finish it. And that's all I have to say about that. And I'm not condoning violence. I'm not saying it's going to end up in the streets, okay? But social media, no. This fan base knows how to use social media. Oh, they know how to use social media. You can ask the other fan bases about that. Eagle fans are very, very passionately on social media, so you don't have to. There's nowhere you can hide. Turn your computers off. Turn off your phones. You don't want to look at social media after a while. Take a lesson learned from some of these other fan bases, right? Again, all I can do is try. I've tried to do my public service announcement to the good people of the Motor City. Now they have to listen, and if they don't listen, well, you'll know. You'll know. These aren't Packer fans. No. We're not friendly. This isn't the friendly fan base that you want to go up against. Bears fans are just worn out. It's like, what are you going to do with them? And then, the Viking fans, they scold a lot. But, Jay can tell you. So that's But you try to go up against the Eagle fan base? No, that's not where you want to go. That's not. No, don't do it. Don't, Detroit, again. I'm warning it now. Don't. Anyhow, hey, all I can do is try, okay? Anyhow, that's going to do it for this video. Long overdue season of the fan. I got busy with life. Things happen, But I've been remissing it. I have missed doing this series, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. I am still trying to get the 2K subs by New Year's Eve in a few weeks, about 2 weeks from today. We're still just below the 1,700 threshold, and I thank all of you so much. Thank you all so much for hitting that subscribe button, and please continue to do so. Tell your family, tell your friends. I just try to have as much fun as I can in these videos. This channel is bare boned, as we all know. I do these series, the In the Life, the collecting series, and then the Season of the Fan, where I can for the Eagles. I'm a passionate Philadelphia sports fan. We all know this. I wear my passion on my sleeve. I'm not wearing sleeves right now, but long sleeves. I'm wearing short sleeves, but you get what I mean, right? So, I do, and these teams mean the world to me, and trying to keep my sanity watching them is not the easiest thing in the world to do. It really is. It's talking about friendships. So, but I make these videos and I make this content because I enjoy it, and I know that You, the viewer, have fun with it too. So continue to show that support. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Okay, lots of like. Even you Niner fans, you got to hit the like button. Remember, MightyFan warned you about this season. You don't always listen to me. You should, but you don't always listen to me. Heed the warnings of MightyFan, right? And you too, Detroit. You heed that warning. I'm just saying. We don't know each other that much. We might get to know each other over this season and the next few seasons. No, don't make those same mistakes. Anyhow, make sure you do that, and also hit the bell icon after hitting the subscribe button so that you're always notified of upcoming episodes from yours truly, whether it's in this series or the Season of the Fan or the Season of the Fan Iced series, which we will have another video of soon. So keep your eyes open for that, and that's going to do it for me. There's a Mike Schmidt. Speaking of Philadelphia sports, there's a Mike Schmidt documentary on MLB Network tomorrow night. They do such a great job with their docs. Finally, a Phillies involved, so looking forward to that. I have my DVR ready for that. And there's also, even though it's not a Philly-related thing, kind of, though, is because Temple Tough, Joe Klecko was involved in this, the New York Sack Exchange defense of the 80s for the New York Jets. That 30 for 30 is going to be coming out later in this week too, and ESPN does such a great job with their 30 for 30s. I am waiting for the Sixers Trust the Process one. That one that's going to have to be like they did The Last Dance and all these different how many multiple part things for that, because it keeps going to this day. But that one is going to be special. You mark my words on that. That is going to be a special 30 for 30. But the New York Jets Sack Exchange 30 for 30 comes out this week, and Temple Tough Joe Klecko will be involved in that. So watch that one. I have my DVR set for that too. And yeah, so that's going to do it for me. Go Birds as always. Big one, interstate matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers this Sunday at a little after 4:25-ish, I guess, on Fox. Tom Brady calling to you. Come on, Tom! Tom Brady going to be the color man for this game. Tom, we've had a history with him. We both bad and good. So but anyway, maybe he can say hi to Brandon Graham before the game. That'd be just hope Tom's not holding a football. But anyhow, that's gonna do it for me, and I will see you in the next one. You all take care. All right, everyone, and happy holidays too as well. We got a week before Christmas, 2 weeks before New Year's. It's the silly season, right? As Mel Gibson said in Lethal Weapon. Another great holiday action movie. Yes. All right, everyone, take care.